Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Dr. Rose Moten.
July 13th, 2013. I'm sitting in the pew at the front of the church at my mom's memorial service, listening to people share stories about her. And what's the darkest day of my life is being mocked by this sunlight, this bright sunlight coming through the stained glass windows. My cousin Shanaz gets up and shares how my mom saved the day when she made her prom dress. And I nod. She made most of our clothes when we were growing up. She even made my prom dress and my first wedding dress. Her neighbor gets up and said, "It used to scare me to death when I drive by that house and see her on top of that roof, nailing some shingles. Then she'd pull out that lawnmower and start mowing all the lawns of the abandoned houses. I'd have to either get off my porch and help her or go in the house so I didn't feel bad." My brother shares how all the resale shops in the Tri-County area are waving their flags, half-staff, in honor of their most loyal customer. My mom once brought 2 upright pianos home in her conversion van for her grandchildren. At the repast, I overhear 2 of my younger cousins laughing about an inside joke they had about my mom being a serial killer. They couldn't understand how she could walk the mean streets of Detroit at night, Mack and Van Dyke and 6 Mile, and not be bothered by anyone. She may not have been a serial killer, but my mom, Eliza Lee Moten, was a force. She was a force like a weather system that moves through and changes the landscape. My dad knew she was a force. He knew the first time he laid eyes on her. Summer of '66, walking down St. Clair Street on the east side. His sister said when he met my mom, he called back home to his family in Mississippi and said, "I met me a fox." Now, Fox just happened to be my mom's maiden name. But no doubt it had 2 meanings. They were married just 6 months later on December 24th, Christmas Eve, 1966. There were no pictures of their wedding, but as a little girl, I created my own images in my head. You know, poinsettias all over the church. My dad in a green tux. Hell, it was the 60s, right? My dad, who was never one to sugarcoat anything, he set me straight when I was 8 or 9. He said, "Rose, we weren't even supposed to get married on Christmas Eve. It was a shotgun wedding." My mom chimed in, "Yeah, we had other dates we were supposed to get married." She called him October '66. "Robert, are we going down to the courthouse to get married today?" No, I got to babysit my little cousins." November '66. "Robert, what about today?" I don't have no bus fare." Finally, December 24th. "Robert, if we don't get married today, the marriage license expires and we'll have to pay another $25. That did it. My dad joked that he was going to be a runaway groom, so he went to the men's restroom in the courthouse and opened the window to jump out. He said, but he looked down, it was the 4th floor, so he went ahead and said his I do's. My sister Rosalind was born just 5 months later. 2 years after that, my sister Robin was born. And in January of 1972, I made my entrance into the world. It was a little interesting, though, because the doctors told both my parents they had given birth to a boy. Of course, the truth was revealed the first diaper change. But it didn't change anything because I was this quintessential daddy's girl and tomboy all rolled up in one. In fact, prior to the age of 6 or 7, I actually saw my mom as competition. You know that Oedipus complex? When the young boy falls in love with his mother and wants to get rid of his father? I was the female version of that. I remember one Saturday morning, my mom comes in the living room, and me and my 3 siblings, my younger brother had been born by that time. We laid across the floor, we're watching cartoons. And so, you know, when you got 3 girls with a head full of hair and a curly-headed little boy, combs and brushes were of a premium. They always ended up broken or missing. She comes in with a new comb, and she waves it in the air like Mommy Dearest and says, "See this comb? Nobody had better not touch this comb. Do you all hear me?" We all looked up, nodded, that was it. Later on that day, I went rambling, and I found a comb just like it, except half its teeth were missing. And I thought to myself, I'm about to get my mama in trouble. I took that comb and I went in the kitchen where she was sewing at the kitchen table, and I started running that comb through my thick hair, just waiting for her to look up. When she finally looked up, I said, she jumped up, grabbed my hand. Didn't I tell you not to touch that? I burst out in tears like an Academy Award-winning actress, right? I ran to the bathroom, I got that new comb, and I brought it to her. You sort of saw the guilt and remorse in her eyes. But it wasn't over because I had the goods on my mom. When my dad got home from work, I put on the Waterworks again. I was supposed to get an Oscar by that time. He picked me up, he marched me in there. My mom, he said, Lee, he called her Lee. You made Rose cry, you leave Rose alone. You hear me? Of course he was joking with her, but in my head, I was sticking out my tongue. Nah, 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 nah. I don't think I saw my mom for the force that she was until at the age of 12, and my father, who was just 36 at the time, had a massive stroke. He wasn't able to walk, he had dementia, he didn't even remember who we were for the most part. My mom, who was a full-time, she worked full-time, she became a full-time caregiver too. Of course, us kids helped when we could, but this had become her life. Daily bathing, diaper changes, feedings, doctor's appointment. My older sister by this time had just gone off to college. And it was just like, this was her life, in the prime of her life. And I had the nerve 4 years later, to ask her or go to her and tell her, I want to be an exchange student for the summer in Spain. And she made it happen. 2 years after that, when it was time for me to go to college, I received acceptances in both academic scholarships from University of Michigan and Eastern Michigan University. But I never even told my mom about the U of M because I knew she would try to come up with that $7,000 gap that the scholarship did not cover. It was at Eastern Michigan University, my second semester of my sophomore year, that I found out I was pregnant. Now, people lined up, you might as well hang up that degree, girl, it's over. But my mom never did. She never questioned that. She did want me to get married right away, though. I didn't want to get married. So I came up with a plan. I said, Mom, if I get married now, I won't have any health insurance. I said, I'm still under you and Dad's health insurance. And when the baby's born, the baby will be under you guys' health insurance. That was enough to buy me some time. I promised her that I would get married once I graduated college. The due date was December 24th of 1992. It was perfect because the last day of finals was December 16th, 1992. So it meant I didn't have to take an incomplete. I could finish that semester, go back in January, and all is well. So December 16th, 1992, I woke up in labor. I had a choice to make. I could go to the hospital, or I could drive 45 minutes to Ypsilanti, Michigan, and take those 4 finals. Now, I've been doing some, I've been reading up on pregnancy, and so I knew I had a few hours to work with. I took that drive. I took those 3 finals. Nobody was none the wiser. I took little breaks when the contractions would hit. But the 4th final was scheduled for the afternoon. It was like a 2-3 hour gap. And I was like, I don't know if I can do it, but I can't take an incomplete. I walked across that campus till I found that professor in his office. When I walked in, he knew I was in labor. He could tell. His eyes were so big, he thought he was going to have to birth a baby. He knocked every book off his desk trying to find a Scantron and a pencil. And he said, just put your name on it and leave. Just get out. You passed the class. A year and a half later, I graduated on time, magna cum laude, with honors. The following year, 1995, I fulfilled my promise and I got married. 2 years later, in 1997, while I'm working full-time and I'm in graduate school for my master's degree at Wayne State University, I'm in night class. Woo, woo, turn the hearts. I'm in night class, and it was July 1997 in night class at Wayne State that I went into labor with my second child. I was a pro at this now, though. I finished that class. I went home. I mounted a TV on the nursery wall. I finished painting one of the walls in the nursery that had been fitted Then I went to the hospital and gave birth to my son Ian 4 hours later. 4 years later, I was walking across the stage to get my PhD in clinical psychology. 4 months pregnant. Needless to say, my kids are smart. It was around this time that my siblings and I staged an intervention for my mom. She was 55 at this time, and this was like 17 years now of caregiving. And Mom was tired, we could tell. You know, we needed to do, she needed to get some help. She was still refusing help. We had brochures, we had research-assisted living places. She listened to us, she placated us, and then she put us out of her house and didn't talk to us for 3 weeks. That was our cue to back off. Our hands were tied with that. So 2 months after that, I'm 6 months pregnant. I'm on my way to teach as an adjunct professor at one of the local colleges. And I get a call from my mom, and she asked for something she'd never asked for before. She asked for help. She said she had been having trouble seeing. She's had a headache all night, up all night vomiting. I did 80 all the way to her house. By the time me and my siblings, we got her to the hospital, and later the doctors confirmed she had a stroke. She was in ICU for over a week. It was horrible, you know? Fortunately, she did recover. She lost a lot of her peripheral vision, and now she had seizure disorder. But she still refused any help for my dad. 3 months after that, I gave birth to my third child, Gabrielle Rose. And 5 months after that, in August of 2002, my father died unexpectedly during a botched routine hospital procedure. He was 55 at the time. 3 months after that, you know, I have 3 children at home, under the age of 10. I'm building my practice. I'm studying for state boards. I'm working full time. I'm coming home, cooking dinner every single night. And at this time, 3 months later, 1 week before the planned vasectomy, I find out I'm pregnant again. Jordan Rose, I couldn't even come up with a middle name. I was tired. They had the same middle name, Gabby Rose and Jordan Rose. Jordan Rose was born. I did the work. They're going to be named after me. Jordan Rose was born August 2003. And it was around this time I started seeing my mom in a different light. All that strength and repression of her emotions that she's shown for almost 20 years of caregiving was being replaced by the vulnerability that grief oftentimes brings. And seeing her vulnerable for the first time actually allowed me and gave me permission to be vulnerable. And, you know, because I was like my mom. I was this superwoman doing it all. And I started to get real about my needs. Like, I needed more. That put a strain on my marriage. And eventually the decision was made to divorce. My mom was not happy with that. Who divorces with 4 young kids? You don't do that. I told her, I said, Mom, you know, we both got married out of obligation, not to negate the love that was there. We were both superheroes, just at different times. My mom eventually came around and became one of my biggest supporters. In fact, when there was some, you know, things got a little ugly during the divorce and there was some threats made on me, my mom called and let them people know, if one hair on my daughter's head is harmed, there's no place in this world you'll be able to go that I won't find you. She said, and I quote, "You can climb back in your mama's womb and I'm gonna crawl up in there and pull you out." She became my biggest support. I think my decision to advocate for my own needs gave her permission to advocate for her own needs. And she started talking about how she wanted to get married again and find love again. We started exchanging dating stories. Hers were PG-13. You gotta keep in mind, she was 19 when she started dating my dad. That was all her dating experience. I would call and tell her about the rich old Italian man that flew me out to Vegas to meet him out there for the weekend. She'll tell me about the good-looking guy that she met on the bus that she wanted to date. Ooh, Rose, he is easy on the eyes. I wouldn't mind dating him. Really, Mom? What's his name? I don't know. Did you get his number? No. How you expect to date this man? I know what bus stop he got off on. But let me tell you, Eliza Lee Moten stories went from PG-13 to R real quick. My sisters had stayed the night over my house, and we were all in my bedroom one morning when my mom called. We put her on speakerphone, and she said, "Guess what?" We all said in unison, "What?" "I got me some last night." "What?" "Yes, we did it 3 times. And on the 3rd time, he fell out the bed." Between the 2 of us, it was 120 years in that bed. In addition to wanting to find love, Mom had this fixation of wanting to strike it rich. And there's hundreds of stories about that. But the one that stands out is she had been reselling and found this artwork that she was convinced was an original art piece of the French artist Toulouse-Lautrec. She'd been researching and found out there was a missing art piece, and she had the one. She even researched, and found out the guy who did the Antiques Roadshow, the appraiser guy, he was going to be in the metropolitan Detroit area. She called him and set up an appointment for appraisal. She asked if I would take her. I agreed. Always, a lot of us got pulled into Eliza Lee Moten. Pulled up to her house. I pulled up in that driveway. When that woman came out the house, I nearly lost it. She was dressed like a French tourist. She had a white and black striped shirt like the mimes wear, an ascot tied around her neck, red beret, and the little form-fitting black pants. I had to keep it together for that 35-minute ride to the appraiser. She get the picture in there. The appraiser, he takes it, he looks it over. I can feel her beaming in the back because she like, this is it. This is my big day. He looks, he says, "Nice copy. It's worth about $60. You should." This man who was an expert on the ride suddenly didn't know what he was talking about. And to add insult to injury, he told her the price of the appraisal. "That'll be $120. Now, keep in mind, she didn't bring any money with her because she was leaving there with $1 million check, right? She grabbed her picture in all her Parisian glory, marched out of that place, but before she walked that door, she looked over her shoulder and told me, "Rose, pay the man." I paid the man. Eliza Lee Moten left a legacy. She left a legacy of commitment when she took care of her sick husband for nearly 20 years, sent 4 kids to college, took care of grandkids, took care of her community. She left a legacy of perseverance. She left a legacy of it's okay to live life as an adventure, even if that means you got to create your own adventure. Last month, I took my daughters to New York City for the weekend. And the first night there, we're in Manhattan. We're at this 5-star steak restaurant. I'm talking floor-to-ceiling windows, white linen, lighting perfect. I'm feeling good. Got my drink. I got my teenage daughters with me. We just vibing. We conversing. And during the conversation, my youngest daughter, that Jordan Rose, looks at me and say, "Mom, you got commitment issues." I was talking about not wanting to see a 2-hour movie, but this 15-year-old daughter of a psychologist soothsaying behind decides to take it to a whole nother level to read me. And it kind of threw me aback, had me unpacking some stuff that weekend. It wasn't just clothes. But one of the things I told her eventually was, I don't have commitment issues. I'm committed. I'm committed to you all the children. I committed to sending 2 sons through college who graduated on time, 1 a semester early. I'm committed to just being behind whatever desires, goals, and dreams that you guys have. I'm committed to that even when life didn't deal me the cards that I wanted it to deal me, even through all the heartbreak and heartache and disappointment, my commitment towards them never wavered. I told her I'm committed to my happiness. As my mom's memorial service is wrapping up, Tamala Mann's, the song Take Me to the King is on. And I stand up and the family were getting ready to walk out and a thought hits me that had never hit me before. I say, oh my God, one day my children are gonna feel this pain of losing me. But 6 years later, I can tell you that sunlight that mocked me on the day of my memorial service, I now look forward to and now illuminates my path. And that unbearable pain I felt on that day is now replaced with amazing pride in the woman I was able to call Mom.
Dr. Rose Moten, ladies and gentlemen.